Thanks for tuning your machine to our broadcast.
I'm Davis.
And I'm Van.
And we are Holy Moley Comics.
Welcome to episode 3 of our ongoing series,
Tales from the Bin. This is a show where we each pick 3 different comics from the $1 comic bins, found in most local comic book shops, and discuss our findings.
Our intention, seek out the forgotten, the strange, and the mysterious left behind to assess their quality. In doing so, we hope to find a few hidden gems, a few laughs, and some fun behind-the-scenes context behind each issue.
In addition to our readings, we will also be undertaking some additional research, learning more about the creative teams, the publishing companies, and the stories behind the stories.
We believe that comics are for everybody, and that cost or gatekeeping should not be a barrier to entry on one of the greatest storytelling mediums there is.
With all that out of the way, let's delve into the bins to see what we've uncovered.
Just before we get started, I did want to throw out a quick shout out. Thank you to those of you who have been commenting on some of our videos. Our previous Tales from the Bin episode actually had a really insightful commentator who offered a lot of insight into some of the stuff that we had talked about, some of the other creators that were involved in projects that we talked about. And overall, it was just really engaging, but also incredibly polite. They corrected us on 1 or 2 things, but it wasn't in like a mean or a negative way. So I just wanted to point out that we appreciate that, not only you commenting and engaging with us, but just being polite and welcoming. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Okay, so my number 3 pick is The Devil's Red Bride, issue number 1. That is a cool cover.
It's very primal. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Primal as in the show, not as in like, man, this is primal.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So this is issue 1 of 5 of just a limited short story, written by Sebastian Gerner, art by John Bivens, colors by Iris Monahan, and lettered by Jeff Powell. On the back, it says, just speaking of the cover, this is a remix cover. Mm-hmm. It's by John Bivens. So I'm assuming that just means variant cover, but that's the reason I picked this one up, because it's pretty cool. This is published by Vault Comics, came out in October of 2020. So just a little bit about the book. So I'll read the synopsis. 16th century Japan. The fates of warlords ebb and flow like tides of blood. None more than the Origami clan, who follow their lord clad in the red devil mask into every battle. But when Lord Origami succumbs to illness, his daughter, the fierce Ketsuko, hatches a plot to save her people no matter the cost. Years later, as Ketsuko wanders the heaving battlefields of her ruined homeland, she discovers a chance to avenge the terrible wrong done to her clan, even if it means stepping back onto a road steeped in slaughter. Jeez. So that's ripped straight off the rear here, the description of the story.
That is a heart-pounding synopsis.
Mm-hmm. Really cool. I really liked this book. It's coming in at number 3 just because this is a good episode for me in terms of picks.
I'm good. I'm happy to hear that there will be some yin and yang in this episode. But yeah, the setting of like feudal 16th century Japan is really cool, and depicted really well here. The art is cool. One thing about John Bivens' art that I liked is his style, but he seems to kind of push it and pull it in spots. Like he's not rigid with sort of his own styles.
Mm-hmm. So, and I'll show you, and I'll throw some art up on the screen, kind of to illustrate what I mean. But just like depending on moments, like some are more stylized, some are he's holding back a little bit, which kind of gives a cool kind of energy to the story. I think just in following that on the page.
I feel like with not to sidetrack you, but I feel like with comics, to quote the synopsis, the ebb and flow of like either how much detail or how much you stick with a certain sort of style, like a rigid style. I think comics just has so much potential for showcasing that. So often, in both old and new like animation, people are always like, oh, look how cheap this scene is. I think Invincible is guilty of a lot of that. When you have a voice cast that's as expensive as the Invincible cast is, I don't blame them for taking shortcuts. But I feel like you wouldn't say that about comics when something is sort of extremely low detail just to convey a point, because pages are real estate in a comic, and it's sort of the amount of information that you can give away at a glance is the more important aspect of like that language. So I just wanted to say I appreciate comics for being able to be like, oh, I can have an extremely detailed shot here, and then one that strips all of that detail because it's focused on movement or it's focused on atmosphere, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So there's a good job of that. He does a good job of that throughout this book, I feel like. And it's not to say that like there are panels that feel neglected or rushed or anything. It's more just you can tell which ones he decided to push or pull certain things, you know. But yeah, the other thing I really appreciate about the art in this is how kind of the violence is depicted, because it's a violent like story. Obviously, based off the synopsis, there's going to be blood. But it's not like gross out levels. Like there's a distinct like grindhouse influence, but without it being comical. Like it's not Tarantino-y.
Or like gratuitous.
Yeah, it's not gratuitous. Without like holding back either. It's not not showing you stuff, but it's not just like, oh, gore, you know, like.
Yeah, it's not like almost fetishized in a weird way. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think I'm always for tasteful grindhouse violence. That's always like I think it can be a really effective way to tell stories, but it's also just really fun to play with, like stylistically. I think artists that have a really unique style or have a really solid, confident style really benefit well from violence.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just motion. Violence equals motion. It equals color. It equals, cinematography to me.
Well, it's just an element of storytelling when implemented here. Not real life violence, obviously. That's usually pretty negative. But like when used as a tool in storytelling, like it is here, it's not just like, oh, look at all these swords and blood and guts and everywhere. You know, like it's well done, and it's in service of the broader story. Another interesting thing that this does is kind of this red devil armor kind of acts as almost like a persona, at least in this issue. I wonder if they push it further into like be like, it's almost like Kitsuko, the main character. It's like she kind of like, it's kind of maybe a play on like making a deal with the devil, in that like she's granted this ability to be really skilled warrior on some revenge quest, but there's a couple moments where you see like text boxes that it's like all red and just is like, let me in. So you can tell that's what she's like. Wow. And that's when she's like about to like kill somebody, or
where it's almost taking on an identity of its own. I think it's really cool. I would be curious. I know you said that that they might have pushed it further in future issues and stuff, but I'm curious if that is like, is the armor actually somewhat sentient, or like have some sort of supernatural capacity, or is it truly just that mental, division between I am this person when I'm me, but when I undertake my revenge tour, I have to become something else. I think that's really cool. That's really interesting, and obviously something comics don't shy away from.
Yeah. So it remains to be seen how literal that's meant to be taken. But this is, like I said, it's like one of 5 issues. I did find a full trade paperback online, so it's like I think I'm gonna pick that up because this was really cool.
I'm sure you're gonna get into it, but have you had a Vault issue before?
I think Blue Flame was.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, because just in terms of like the style of presentation of like the covers, just felt very much in line with that. Like they're very focused on, strong composition, but also like limited color palette, and that somewhat not cartoony, but I don't know. I always feel bad because like cartooning has like a negative connotation to it that I don't put onto it, but other artists do put onto it, and I don't use it derogatorily. The more animated sort of style,
and like it's pushed in a slightly different direction on the cover here than it is on the interior.
Gotcha.
Like it's way more just kind of graphic and stylized here, but we can get into it and kind of flip through it. There's some cool moments.
Yeah, this first page has sort of like the Japanese sort of
kind of folk art.
The folk art, but it's on like the folded, like it's almost environmental storytelling. The violence feels very and only because we have a quota to hit Daniel Warren Johnson. Like especially like Dead Earth, like where there's viscera, but it's more like about color and sort of just shape language than it is about like the violence. Yeah, this is sweet. I like the colors too.
Yeah, the colors here really. So this is kind of what I mean when he like kind of pushes and pulls it. Like obviously this is a big moment for this character here, but then just later panels it's way more subdued. And
I honestly am just like really impressed, like just from a surface value thought thing. Like a lot of this has been depicted at night, and I just really like how the nighttime is rendered in color. Like it's not too dark where you can still see everything, but it's not obviously like bright.
Yeah, wrapping up final thoughts on this one. I gave this one a 7 out of 10. I feel like as an introductory issue, it's pretty strong, but it's still just kind of setting up the rest of the story, so it didn't like knock my socks off necessarily. But it was good, and the art is really good, and yeah, good little read. Enjoyed this one a lot.
A first issue always has like an uphill battle because it has to introduce so much. It's why like for me, I've always liked not necessarily second issues, but like I like second entries into stories sometimes because we've already done the heavy lifting of like introducing the characters. Now we get to see how they change. So yeah, it's always difficult to onboard with not only like a brand new series, but the first part in that series. You have to set up so much.
7 out of 10. Devil's Red Bride, cool book.
It seemed like it was really cool. It seemed just kind of really engaging. Sweet. I'm if you pick up the trade, you'll have to let me know if you like the overall story. All right, before we enter into my section, I want to preface this with I'm doing my ranking a little different this episode. So I appreciate that you had a bunch of heavy hitters. I cannot say the same, but I decided to make it fun. So I will be talking about my highest rated first.
So we're going
best
to the bottom of the picks on the way for you.
On the way for me, but only because my final pick, I have something fun planned, and it's different than what we've done in the past. All right, so to get started, my first issue is Stark Future. Stark Future number 1. So we have Stark Future Volume 1, sort of titled Issue 1, Book 1, whatever you want to say. This was released in 1986 on August 5th. It was published monthly. This issue has 33 pages, not including the front and back cover, so it's a pretty big first issue. This comic was created and written by Gordon Derry. Art is by Tim McGround and David Day. And editors on this are Barry Blair and Sandy Garland. This was published by Aircell Publishing Limited, and the publisher was Ken Campbell. And it was printed in Canada. Sometimes I just think it's interesting to note when companies are printing in Canada or in the US or wherever they're printing. Because there's actually a surprising amount of Canadian comic publishers. So it's like a lot of American, or not a lot, but a good number of these old books that I found American companies still publish or print in Canada. I'm pretty sure Aircell is a Canadian comic book company. So just to get started, when I first saw this issue, I thought this was going to be a single one-off issue from a defunct company. Just because to me it very much feels like Junk Food Noir. Junk Food Noir was an issue I covered in episode 2. In episode 2 of this series. And so you're going to see me drawing a lot of comparisons, both in art, style, kind of how I felt about it. Junk Food Noir was a single issue, only one was made, and nothing ever came of it. To my surprise, I thought a similar fate was going to happen with this one. It actually ran for 17 issues from 1986 to 1987, which is no small feat.
Yeah.
So getting into some of the creative team notes about this issue. So Gordon Derry, the creator of the series, he was born Gordon Dervanchuk. Der Van Chuck. And and he used the pseudonym Derry. I can see why. So he was heavily involved in the alternative independent Canadian cartooning world. From the research I looked at, he did a lot of speculative fiction writing, which is a genre I really like. He got started in comic book making because he wrote a comic book biography of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who's the creator of Sherlock Holmes. And that sort of got him early connections. Like I said, he was just a writer, and then he became a comic book writer by doing some of these more historical related topics. The Sir Arthur Conan Doyle biography was his first entry into sequential storytelling. So Gordon Derry had connections to other creators who led Aircell Publishing. And so I think he was kind of on the ground level when they first started getting going, and was part of a lot of their projects from that point forward. But oddly enough, I was not able to find a lot of information about him or about Aircell Publishing. It seemed like they were pretty prolific. Maybe it was just the reference points that I found weren't very good, or it's hard. This isn't a comic from the 80s, and I don't know how popular it was at the time, and I don't know how popular Canadian comic book communities were at the time either. So some of that information is out there. It was inaccessible to me. I did try to find more information about the other artists or editors or colorists or whatever that worked on this, but there was not a lot of information. All I saw was a lot of them are localized to Aircell Publishing. Some maybe had contractual work for Marvel or DC, but nothing of like, in the past we've had episodes where, X writer of comic ended up creating semi-iconic DC character or Marvel character. I didn't see anything like that with this issue. So getting right into the quick story synopsis, Stark Future follows the adventures of Eli Stark. He is a genetically modified ranger living and working on the moon of Canaan. Alongside his crew, these rangers battle against the hostile environment and mutated plant life of the moon and navigate the alien society of the mega city tower of Harad when called to undertake a new mission. This comic has a really, really interesting world building. And if you know anything about me, I love world building. I always gravitate towards that in storytelling. Sometimes good world building can make up for bad storytelling in my eyes. If I'm interested in the world, I sometimes can forego my interest in either the characters or the plot that's occurring. I think that's the case for this. This comic starts as a full page of like lore at the very front page. And at the back, it has almost 5 to 6 pages of a history leading up to this world that the story takes place in. And the story itself of Eli Stark is just in the middle. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about this one. I don't really know where my feelings lie with it. From a story standpoint, I wasn't really interested in the characters and their story, but the world was really, really cool, really interesting. So essentially, we have this moon planet of Canaan, and the idea is that it houses multiple species. I'm trying to remember, I'm going off the cuff here. I think some may have originated there. I think many have come from other places. Humanity apparently segmented in 2017 during the terrorist war, the Great Terrorist War of 2017. I was there.
As we all remember, yeah.
And essentially like catapulted humans into space. They became rangers, and the rangers that this creator wanted to make, they're very, it's funny because they're almost like they would have been post Mandalorians. They're very much like a warrior culture. Like they're army guys. They're essentially army guys, but it talks about how like fiercely honorable they are, how loyal they are. They have a code that they stick to. It's essentially like Mandalorian Rambos is how they're described. And the idea is that they're the last of humanity, and they've been genetically altered to like survive hazardous environments, et cetera, et cetera. The place where the story takes place has these huge mega cities. I guess the environment itself is pretty toxic to people other than the Rangers, so the Rangers can go and explore. And there are multiple species that live in these mega city towers. The main one that we see in the story is called Harad, and that even has its own world building where it's like there's a hierarchy of classes to these cities. So the workers and the proles and stuff essentially live in the bottom, and it's all like that's where all the industry happens. That's where all the work happens. It's all like it's essentially a polluted nightmare down there. And as you get higher, obviously the air clears and you get to more of like the loyalty and the regality of this place, and they're all at the top, and there's an alien species that rules that class. They see themselves as superior beings. But one of the interesting things that they don't show, they tell, there's always rules about show, don't tell, but they tell us that rangers are the only species that have mobility throughout all of the moon and the city's atmospheres or environments. Because if the elite, the regal elite, were to come into the smog nightmare, they would die. But sadly, the enslaved proles and laborers would also die if they go up to the clean air. The air is too pure; it would kill them. So I just think that stuff's really interesting. The story is about Eli Stark, and he's essentially just like a foul-mouthed army guy, Rambo, who's like, I gotta go work with these people, and I don't like it, and he's about to go union bust for the evil aliens, and the issue is him talking to the main alien. His friends who are featured in the cover, I'll flip it around. He has two allies with him. They have their own little side adventure where they get attacked by a werewolf. And then at the very end of the story, Eli Stark goes to presumably one of his contacts who's like an alien arms dealer or antiquist or something like that. Which is always I love that kind of character archetype, the sort of like grimy, either gun runner or the like the Collector in Marvel, or I'm trying to think if there's any good like Star Wars examples, like a Watto. Yeah,
just
like a dealer, your
guy,
scum,
has connections.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. I've always thought those characters were kind of fun. Our main character goes up to this guy and is trying to buy like these crazy rifles. They're not available. And he finds a sword, and he's like, there's Ranger lore about a sword very similar to this. And so he buys it from the guy. So it's almost like a sort of that mythological, like the magic sword has been, potentially found or reclaimed. It might be a symbol of power. Who knows? I only read this first issue. I have not done any research about like where the story goes or anything. Like I said, I think the world building is really interesting, but like when it comes down to the actual characters and the dialogue of these characters, I think it's pretty rough. From a story point, it doesn't really work for me all the way around, other than the world building.
It sounds cool. Just
like the world is cool.
Yeah,
but it's like, and I'll do like maybe I'll read a little bit of both, of like a little bit of the world building and a little bit of like the actual story. You'll kind of see the distinction. In terms of art, that's another comparison with junk food noir, where
that's where my mind went there immediately when I saw the cover.
Like the cover looks like it, the interior art looks like it. It's sort of that like inked, like there's no color, there's very limited like black and white in terms of composition, but it's very much like ink drawings, and I say this as someone who also knows, like, I know my own limitations as an artist. I don't necessarily think it's wrong to be critical of art that you maybe couldn't create yourself, but I think it's really good, and I think there's a lot of passion behind it, and that's what's admirable about it. Similar to Junk Food Noir, of whoever, I know the name, but I can't recall right now, but the artist that drew Junk Food Noir was very passionate, and you could tell that they clearly had a good time doing it, and I think the same could be said for this. That doesn't mean that there aren't shortcomings, and that's totally okay. For what it is, I think it's totally okay, especially because this would have cost like maybe $1 or $2 back in the day, and it still does, fortunately. But here, I'll let you take a look at some of the interior art. Like, it's pretty dynamic and stuff still, but you can kind of see that there's limitations to it. It still feels, I'm not even going to say amateur, it's very intermediate. Because I think there's a good sense.
There's an interesting kind of split between environments and objects versus people.
Yeah, it's really, and there's also weird composition stuff happening too.
Yeah, like the way people are rendered is a lot different than like just like how this is rendered.
Yeah.
Or this ship looks almost like 60s, like Alex Toth's, like, Space Ghost.
Yeah.
And then this
yeah.
looks very, like junk food noir-y.
I will say, though, because it is a book from the 80s, it does have that old book smell and, like, old textured paper. It's really fun. That old newsprint is really good. It has strong color, not colors, strong blacks when necessary. There's the werewolf.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Or, like, stuff like there's this background shot where it's, like, very, like, really low detail.
It doesn't look finished.
But it looks unfinished because of that. Like, if they would have made that part black instead of white, I think maybe it would have been able to blend better.
Yeah, there's not really a cohesive... I mean, there is, but, like, you can tell it was drawn by the same person, but there's not a super cohesive, like, feel to...
Yeah. Well, some characters look
the art
rendered... Here. Like, there's this alien character, and he just has these big cartoon eyes, and I know that's, like, indicative of potentially a species of his aliendom, but he looks different than the humans and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or like this environment here, wherever that's supposed to be, doesn't look quite finished either.
Yeah, but it's like I respect the attempt as someone who, like, could maybe do this worse. Like, it's tough. I recently just completed a comic myself, and I know that it has shortcomings, and I think acknowledging that and not acknowledging that it's not perfect is an important step forward towards getting better.
Yeah, this isn't... Any criticism is not coming from any, like... We're not necessarily trying to treat it like it's...
We're better.
Bad or we're better. We're just... But we're also giving just honest feedback and thoughts from the consumer standpoint. I mean,
there's something engaging, though, about it, though, at the same time.
It feels very Star Wars-y. Like,
and I think that's why, obviously, I gravitate towards, like, the pulpy, Star Wars-y, sci-fi type stuff. I mean, it's a comic that came out in the 80s. It's going to be heavily inspired by Star Wars, Alien, Predator, all that kind of stuff, and you can kind of see that.
Yeah.
I think the cover is cool, though.
It is a cool cover.
It's just funny because, like, this guy is a side character, but he's, like, the coolest looking character on the cover.
So is the cover artist different?
I don't know.
Dan Day? Is that who we said who you say did this one?
Let's see. Let's double check. Okay, so David Day probably did the cover, and then Tim McGround maybe did the interior.
Okay.
Sometimes with these old comics, they don't give you a really great breakdown of who does what.
Yeah.
I think more modern comics are better at, like, giving credit. So I'll just give a quick example of, like, some of the writing and some of the world building. So just to show, this is that first full page of lore. Welcome to Canaan. That's the name of the place. So Canaan, third moon of the huge lifeless planet called Torgaso. This is a world of hostile wilderness and vast sterile deserts, roughly the same size as Earth. It has a similar atmosphere, though richer in oxygen and high in ultraviolet radiation that would kill an ordinary Terran. Its only native inhabitants are huge omnivorous plants, mutants created by the ancient cataclysm. These mindless creatures crawl about in search of food, attacking everything that moves. Other strange plants grow where the deserts have not eaten away all the fertile soil, forming nightmare jungles or groves of breathtaking beauty.
Not the nightmare jungle.
And then, like, you get into the actual, like, sort of writing. I remember. Okay, so he's speaking with the alien. This is on the interior. He's speaking with these sort of higher level beings, and this alien says, "You Durvanites are like us, a superior race. We have a lot in common, you and I." And the main character says, "Don't insult me. I hate everything you stand for." And she says, "You need us, Ranger. Without our fuel rods, you would perish in the pressure storms. And he says, "Or the Cactilians would eat us. I've heard your speech before, so we need each other. I still don't like you. Now tell me about the problem in the mines."
Just so there's no ambiguity on where this guy stands.
Yeah. Like, this part actually gets kind of crazy. Like, this is where I was saying, like, they try to go for like this weird Mandalorian, like Rambo sort of like honor code. Like he kind of has like a mic drop moment, right? Like he takes these guns that he asked for guns to solve this, to break the union that they have an issue with, and she only lets him take one. He uses it to destroy these mine turrets, these telekinetic tracking mechanisms, because he's like, oh, you didn't trust me, I took out your thing. But this I don't know why this part just kills me. I sat here for an hour with your hidden lasers ready to fire at me on a single mental impulse. Yes, I know of your secret thought weapons. I came here in peace, in trust. If I wanted, I could have killed you at any time. But a ranger is a man of honor. Perhaps an Alvalian like you can't understand that concept. And then he walks out and she's like, Stark, guy. It's just...
That's funny.
I don't know. I just think it very much feels like when you're a creator and stuff and you have something that you love or something that you created that you love, like obviously it's all about like making them as cool as possible or whatever you go into it with. But I don't know. There's something that's really weird about how it's like my characters not only are cool, but they're also super nice guys.
Yeah, they're just very good all around.
Yeah,
everyone's good.
Yeah, but it's like my guy's Rambo and he can say mean things to women, but then he's honorable.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. It just feels weird. It feels ingenuous. But I also think it's of the era. It's very much like these people saw X movies, read Y books, and
this is the natural conclusion of
yeah. And I'm sure if I grew up in the time, I would have drawn exactly the same thing. So I can't. Part of me loves it. Part of me loves it for that. So I don't mean to go on too long with it. But there's just some bits I thought that was worth pointing out. But I think I like the world building bits more than the story. The only downside is the world building bits are kind of boring to read because they're not told in comic format. They're told in large paragraphs with like really, really tiny images next to them.
Well, and there's times where like that much of an exposition dump is helpful. And doesn't detract, but there are times where it's just like I don't want to do homework before reading this book, like. Well,
and that's something that I grapple with almost every single time I undertake like a storytelling project, and that's sometimes what keeps me from moving forward with storytelling projects is I hit an impasse where it's like, exposition dumping can be beneficial. A lot of people see through it. The golden rule always is show, don't tell. However, sometimes it's incredibly hard to show
but sometimes
some
you do
things.
just need to tell. I mean, and like a lot of great books. Lord of the Rings does a lot of telling.
Oh, he be telling. I mean, he made the books to be telling.
Yeah. So like narratively, it still does. You still learn a lot through what characters say and how they act and just what happens. But there is so much context given to stuff. But it works when he does it because, but that happens in like most books anyways, like do way more telling than showing. Granted, it's reading, but like.
Yeah, and I think that's why comics can get away with it a little bit more because what is comics if not the marriage between show and tell?
There's a balance, I guess, because like it's also like I get taken out of something more if it's like someone's trying to be clever with their exposition, but it takes you right out of it. Like when characters just say something to each other that no human being would ever say to another human being, Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, hey, it's me, Davis and Van. You remember how we've been friends for 10 years?
Yeah.
Like,
you guys all know the time when we did the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
it's funny because there are people in my life that start conversations thinking that you have the context of stuff. And I always think people like that are funny because it's like, we don't all tune into the same TV show of your life. Like it's always just funny to me. I think I think it would have been hard for them to incorporate that. It very much feels like the people who created this had a really, really cool idea of the world and the story. But then when I don't know what got in the way. I wonder if it was like what came first. They had the world building idea and then we're like, oh, we'll tell this story, this Rambo story, whatever. Or if it was, I have this Rambo story and then I came up with the world after, and the world is actually more interesting than I don't. It just doesn't. The means don't justify the ends for me, and I think it's really helpful if insightful look on that whole exposition, world building, lore versus storytelling. Like, what's more important? What's the balance? I don't know. I think it's really a fascinating thing, and it helps me think about doing that in my own stuff. Because I've had many story projects where I'm like, is the first issue like the exposition issue, or do you try to figure out? I also love stories when you are thrown into the middle. Like, I think that's also very engaging. But when you're an independent, artist, there's no guarantee that you get more than one issue, because there's no guarantee that that issue gets printed, or people are going to see it. So it's like, it's always a gamble, I feel like. And I like this comic because it made me ask a lot of questions like that for my own creation. But yeah, I think it has potential, had potential. I love the 80s sci-fi in action very much. So like aesthetically, it's a really fun book for me. But I mean, it feels like watching those movies where you're like, the characters are hollow, the world is interesting, One thing I forgot to note is that this company helped create the Men in Black comic book, which the movie would later be on. I wrote in my notes, to be later adapted into an okay media franchise.
That's appropriate, yeah.
They also may or may not have had a long-running history of publishing erotic stories. Maybe, I forgot I was gonna. Sorry, I did my notes like 3 weeks ago, so I'm trying to remember. They wrote a lot of erotic comic books, and they did some adult film adaptations, which is not something that you see every day. So, Aircell was crazy back in the day. Like, it was crazy looking at research, and it would be stuff like some of the other titles were like Samurai, Dragon Ring, Warlock, Elf Lord, Stark Future, and then it would just be like Babes of Bondage, and I'm like, what the? What? I'm going into a very different section here. Yeah. So. just a weird comic with a weird history. They do things different in Canada, supposedly. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I think it has potential, but I think it falls flat in a couple of places. I don't know if I will be reading more.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll look at the Wikipedia.
Okay, so my number 2 pick today is Green Valley, issue number 1.
That is an awesome cover. Cool cover. Well, it's very like Arthurian legend.
On the front there, it says, what does it say? All began with one mistake. I don't know if that's like a subtitle or if that's just, like the context for the series or something. But anyway, so this was published in 2016. I think mostly by Image, but Skybound also has their logo on there. Written, this is how it's, the creative team is credited as creator/writer is Max Landis. The art team, pencils by Giuseppe Giuseppe Comicoli, inks by Cliff Rathburn, colors by Jean-Francois Beaulieu. I'm so sorry. Letters by Pat Brousseau. And then editor Sean Makowitz, assistant editor Ariel Basic.
They purposely like picked the hardest, insanest names to do like a creative team. Again, apologies if we ever get any pronunciations wrong. We read comics. We're dumb.
I'm not trying to be like insensitive. I promise. But yeah, published by Image and Skybound. Some fun notes about the creative team on this. So Max Landis is the screenwriter for the movie Chronicle and American Ultra. Have you seen either of those?
I have seen Chronicle. I'm aware of Max Landis. I was wondering if it was the same guy.
Yeah.
Some things about that dude are not right.
Yeah. Also, screenwriter for Bright, the movie.
There's an infamous tweet of his, and it's him prior to selling the rights to Bright. It's a tweet where he says, "I think I may have just found my Star Wars."
Not quite.
No.
My note I put there after Bright is also, well, we can't all be winners. If no one knows what Bright is, it's that movie I think it was on Netflix where is it Will Smith?
It's Will Smith and
Taron
Owen
Egerton?
Lars.
Yeah.
And Owen Lars is an orc.
Yeah, and it's like, what if fantasy characters and humans existed in the modern world?
But they do the classic thing of like, black people are orcs. Like,
Yeah.
Where it's very degrading.
Yeah.
Or intended to be degrading, and they're trying to. I think that you can totally do, aliens or other species or fantastical races that have inspirations of real life cultures, but you have to do it in a way that's like
Not so on the nose.
like have it be like, oh, well, maybe the orcs have this culture and they have this aesthetic that's different than, oh, being an orc is similar to being black. Like that's not.
Also,
that's bad.
that movie, if I remember right, I can't remember his name, was directed by the same guy who directed the 2016 Suicide Squad, which is bad.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that is probably also due to the choice for director on that one. So, but Chronicle and American Ultra are fun movies.
I really like. I've not seen American Ultra, but I really do think Chronicle's a great concept and it's shot well.
Maybe this is a hot take. I don't think the concept for Bright is necessarily bad in and of itself. I just think it was
Just poorly
executed poorly.
Well, it's just it's too surface value of it, right? Like, there's definitely been stuff that introduces the fantastical to modernity way better. In comic book format, one I would recommend is Fables. People might be more familiar with. There was a video game inspired by Fables called The Wolf Among Us, but Fables is essentially like your favorite fairy tale characters had to be exiled from like the literal land of fairy tale, and they're living in places like New York. And so like the big bad wolf is Big B Wolf, and he's a detective, and he has like a human form, but if he gets mad, he wolfs out. Anyway, just there's ways to do it well.
Also, fun fact, Max Landis is the son of John Landis, who's a well-known film director who directed The Blues Brothers.
I love The Blues Brothers, but I think we're not supposed to like John Landis because I think he got people killed.
I did not know that.
I think if I could cut this, we might need to do research. I don't remember what movie, but I think he was responsible for a helicopter crash, like
Yikes.
in a movie, like on a movie set, and it killed like kids.
Oof.
Yeah, or something like that.
Maybe we'll just scrub mention of John Landis from this episode.
But keep Blues Brothers.
We do like the Blues Brothers.
I love the Blues Brothers. It's a great movie. Sorry, we'll have to look.
Controversial picks on the writer there.
That's so funny.
The artist Giuseppe Camuncoli, he's worked on a lot of big titles for both Marvel and DC. A lot of I think he does a lot of fill-in stuff. I didn't want to read his whole bibliography because there's a lot. But notably, the Amazing Spider-Man and Superior Spider-Man. He was a pretty regular artist on those. And then he also did Godzilla vs. Hulk, and I wanted to show you this cover.
Oh my God.
I'll throw that up on the screen.
That's awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I love Godzilla because he's goofy. He's a goofy looking guy, especially in Shin Godzilla. He looks absolutely insane.
Yeah, this is very much like the Shin Godzilla look of just
And I'm not a Godzilla expert, or I don't know very much, but I do think he's a cool guy.
But anyways, moving on to this issue for Green Valley. Like I said, it says all began with one mistake on the front. So the synopsis I come up with is that this follows the Knights of Kelodia, 4 legendary knights who meet on the cusp of battling an army of barbarians, outnumbered 100 to 1. In traditional fashion, as they establish that these are well-known, kind of legendary knights.
Knights of the Round Table, kind of.
Sort of, yeah. They make pretty quick work of the leader of this army of barbarians, and then they return home to celebrate. That army retreats, and then only to find out later they may have underestimated the enemy.
So does it take place in a...
It's like a...
medieval, or is it...
It's kind of like fictional medieval.
Gotcha.
It's very, this first issue, at least, is very straightforward, not Arthurian, but Arthurian vibes, fantasy.
Which I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's what attracted me to it in the first place, because I'm a sucker for knights. The art in this, is well done. and it's like it is very well done, but I kind of take some issue with it just on a taste level. They're all doing good work here, but it suffers from a larger issue that a lot of fantasy art, especially within the last 10 or 12 years, does, where like takes me out of it because everyone has like kind of modern haircuts or like trendy undercuts or weird, like you see this with a lot of like D&D art. You see it with a lot of just fantasy art in general, I guess, and that's just not my thing. Like,
well, I'm not interested in it in reality.
Yeah.
People can look however they want to look. I don't care how they want to look. But yeah, I think it has the option to take you out. I think if it fits a character, I think that you can do whatever. I mean, it's a fantasy world. It can make sense, but like part of the fun of a genre, especially like if just from what you've said, it seems more like there's a potential for fantasy, but it's more historical. Like, I don't know, play with that stuff. That stuff's, I think that adds a lot to the visuals is when you play within the time frame, and you can make stuff look interesting for character development or character looks specifically. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't like that.
Yeah, and the note I put here is like, I know there's a lot of room in fantasy for it to be different things for different people. So I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum, but at the same time, it's just that style, like I just don't, it doesn't do it for me. But yeah, I think we're probably in the minority of comic fans because it is so prevalent, especially in fantasy comics. So we're not being haters, but it's just a taste thing. Like, we realize that.
For me, and I want to make this very clear, we're not saying that we dislike who the hair is attached to or the presence of people. Yeah. Like, I'm actually all for that. It's just when you have things that are so real world, obviously, like, so many of our stories are reflections of the world. I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't like those haircuts in real life. Like, I'm not going to get one myself. So when you are reading something or playing something, it's kind of, you want that to be a reflection of, I don't know, your perspective of it. Yeah. We're not hating it. It's just, it's a personal thing.
It was not enough for me to like, it's not a knock against the book. It's more just like, I didn't connect with the art in the same way I do with other stuff on a different level. So yeah, it didn't make me want to put the book down. But yeah, so far this issue is pretty standard fantasy fare. It's a fun read. I was reading some promotional material for it, and they very heavily tease it, like you don't know where this is going. Looking at the cover art for future issues, it looks like it takes almost like a sci-fi turn in the later runs.
Maybe almost like a Camelot 3000 kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see where this goes. This is another one that I found the trade paperback online, so I'll probably pick that up too, because I am like invested in seeing where this goes.
Gotcha. Which is good. That's how you know it's either a good first issue or just a good issue in general.
Yeah. So it's fun stuff, and it's like, it's knights and barbarians and big banquets at a castle, and there's a king. Like, just good stuff.
I love that kind of stuff. Yeah. I love Arthurian stuff. One of the series that I want to develop is kind of inspired by Arthurian stuff.
But
take a look at this.
Through that.
Oh, I do like the art, like almost immediately.
It is good, and the colors I think are really well done, especially for a lot of the environments.
I'm just trying to think. It's very Image in terms of art. You said that's who it's Image and Skybound. Like a less stylized, it makes me think of like the Walking Dead comics and stuff. Or even a little bit of Invincible, like Ryan Ottley's work. Just doesn't take it as far as you think it's going to go.
Yeah. So again, like it's good work. It's really well done.
But I can see what you're saying of like the haircuts and it just takes you out of it a little bit.
Well, and it's like, this is just broader fantasy in general. Like a lot of like people's art for like how they think characters look in novels, like a lot of like Brandon Sanderson stuff, like kind of falls in that camp. It's like, I do like some Brandon Sanderson books, but it's just like a lot of the aesthetics around it are just not my cup of tea, which when you're reading the book, you can kind of envision your own version of it. But
well, I mean, even like I've been replaying through Jedi Survivor. It's the second in the Jedi Fallen Order series, featuring Cal Kestis and stuff. And in the second game, you have a lot more customization options, and it just drives me crazy because so many of the haircuts are like these, like frat boy, like douche haircuts, and I'm like, I just don't. It doesn't fit for me. It doesn't. I think some characters maybe in Star Wars can fit it. It's sci-fi. It's fantasy. It's whatever. I just don't like it.
Yeah. Well, it feels it's not the same like conversation necessarily, but like a lot of like all the black characters for any piece of media in the last 10 years have the Killmonger haircut.
Yeah.
Like it's just like there's more stuff, especially in a fantasy setting. It's like
it just seems easy. It seems like it's trying to be like, see, kids, you can like fantasy now too, and it's like, hopefully
someone's hair wasn't the defining
yeah
thing keeping someone from engaging with this.
Yeah, it's sort of like oh, I would have watched Lord of the Rings, but Aragorn doesn't have a man bun, so
I'm out. He hasn't shaved one side of his head. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if Aragorn had these haircuts, I'd be like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, if Lord of the Rings had that, it would take me so far out of the story. But again, like, this is its own thing. And maybe there's going to be some, I'm presumably sci-fi elements. So maybe this is not even a real complaint, Maybe there's reasons for the way they look, but...
I mean, calling it right now, just... based on what I know, I have no context for the story, so I'm not going to spoil anything. Here's my call. They at one point were an advanced race and have now had to essentially restart. And so there's some, like they're part of a futuristic civilization that has regressed towards feudalism. And so everyone looks like they have iPhone face because they did once have iPhones. Is my call. You have to let me know.
I'm going to go some sort of simulation is happening.
Ooh.
But yeah, I'll read this one. I definitely want to check out where this goes. And this is, I think, what I say, one of 9.
I mean, overall, it seems like the story's interesting.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, I know we harped on it for a minute, but like the whole aesthetic thing, like it's so minor to like an overall enjoyment of something.
Yeah. And if it does get people, if there are people who connect with it better because of how the characters look, that's fine. Like, but just it has the opposite effect on me.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was gonna say is like that shouldn't detract. That's not us saying that the rest of it is bad or that's a reason not to read it. It's just those things when they do work in your favor can be beneficial though. Like I've definitely read stuff because I'm like, oh, I like how that looks or that's really cool. And I mean, you've seen even on this show, I'll like recommend a comic because it looks cool. I
mean, that's the whole reason. That's our picks are because we think they look
yeah,
cool.
Exactly. And so, but yeah, we're just assessing it based on what it is, and it's a personal preference thing. You have to let us know what you think about sort of more modern styles, sort of depicted in fantasy. I think it can work. I think it depends. Like I think sometimes when like a Viking character has like a sort of like a neo-Nazi haircut, it can kind of work because it fits that sort of rugged, like, oh, it looks like I just shaved my head with like a sword. I think it can kind of work, but like when the prince of a kingdom, it's like that he needs a goddamn bowl cut. Okay,
He needs to look bad.
He needs to look like Will Byers or else. So,
But yeah, overall for this first issue, I had 7.5 out of 10. Like this is a good like kind of just bottled fantasy story setting up where the rest of the series is going to go. So
I have a small question. Was this your first 0.5?
Yeah.
I had my also first 0.5 in this episode. I was thinking about it. I'm like, have we not done 0.5s yet? I know it's not like the rating really doesn't matter, but
when I thought about it, and like I wanted to put this one higher than Devil's Red Bride because I did like it a little bit more, but I was like, I don't think it's an 8.
See, that's where the points came in of like that my the Stark Future one. I'm like, it's like Junk Food Noir, but like I really got a lot of Junk Food Noir that I didn't get out of this one, so it's like. Okay, sorry. That's such it's like a stats nerd thing, but I just thought that was interesting. We both introduced a 0.5 in this episode.
It's a big episode for Tales from the Bin.
0.5.
The 0.5s are coming into play.
Coming in.
The game has changed, ladies and gentlemen.
For my second pick, my second favorite, as in the second best one, is Grim Jack, number 30. Grim Jack. This particular one is called Blood and Duty. This is issue 30. This was released in January of 1987, and it was published monthly. This, I don't know why I always do this, but this is 20 pages. I think it's interesting. As a 20-page primary story and has an 8-page backup story. So this was created by Doug Rice. The character was created by Doug Rice, and this was written by John Ostrander, who is a notable name. We've mentioned him before on the show. And so they are both noted as co-plotters for this series. As I'll get into it, Grim Jack is just one of many characters that are interlinked in like a world created around Grim Jack. And Doug Rice and John Ostrander had a lot to do with that. So pencils are by Doug Rice. It's inked by Screamin' Demons. And
God, help those demons.
God, see, that's why you wonder why when we can't pronounce Giuseppe Kamaguchi or whatever, like when we can't pronounce that, thank God for Screaming Demons. Thank you for just being like, we're gonna just be something easy to say. And also the Screamin' has no G. That is an important aspect. Screamin' Demons. All right, and letters are by David Cody Weiss and colors by Linda Lessman. Editor Rick Oliver. So published for this is First Comics Publishing Production / First Comics Inc. And I don't know where it was printed. They won't tell me.
I've asked.
Okay, so getting into the creative team on this, a little bit of background. Doug Rice, he has a long history of work with many publishing companies, including Marvel and DC. And he also did background and character art for the animated series Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, cool.
I love all that old changes its definition as each year passes by. I like 90s, 2000s animation. Pinky and the Brain, Ren and Stimpy, all that. I grew up watching that. I really enjoy Animaniacs, all that kind of stuff. I think is really cool. So it's fun that he was involved with animation.
Yeah, that's cool.
Especially because a lot of that stuff was still in that like hand drawn, early computer, but still like hand drawn and hand. Not all hand animated, but like character design was drawn by hand. A lot of backgrounds were painted. Still using like cells and stuff. So as we get further from that past, I just have to respect it more. I'll always appreciate that stuff more than like AI. Okay, John Ostrander. He's a big name in comics, discussed in previous episodes of Tales of the Bin. Most notably for me is his work on Star Wars, including the Legacy series, which is something I'd actually like to cover in the future. The Legacy Star Wars series takes place 130 years after Endor, and so it's the furthest that the old timeline went. And I think modern Star Wars, I love Star Wars. I think modern Star Wars needs to go into the future and start to do some new stuff. Just because I think there's a lot that you can. I think it'd be fun to have all the current eras that we have become the past for a future series. But yeah, he really pushed Star Wars into the future back in the day, and I think that some of that energy can be brought into the current canon. And then Screamin' Demons is the pen name for Brian Thaddeus Thomas. If my name was Brian Thaddeus Thomas, I too would want to be called a Screamin' Demon. And he did a lot of artwork for First Projects, and I guess he did a lot of TMNT stuff. I don't know. I can't remember from my research if that is a current thing. TMNT is really big right now in comics. I think comics has kept it alive to get it to the point where they can do more animated series and the animated movies and stuff that they've been doing. TMNT has always been a franchise I'm not really interested in. I think some characters look cool. I had one Game Boy game that was pretty fun, but
yeah,
I'm not into it.
I've seen the most recent animated movie, but I don't really engage with it much further than that either.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like Transformers. Like I think some of the stuff is cool, but it's not something I get into.
I definitely appreciate like what it did for, especially like indie comics. I've never read those.
I thought you were gonna say I really appreciate what it did for anthropomorphic animals.
Did a lot for turtles.
Turtles are better off now than they ever have been. All right, so a quick synopsis for Grimjack, and particularly this issue number 30. Grimjack is a mercenary for hire who has lived an exciting life of action and adventure, seemingly traversing across space, time, and even other dimensions. Grimjack has made many friends and enemies along the way. In this issue, a pair of robo-soldier pilots and friends from another timeline incorrectly installed a device into their robo-soldier mech. Their mech is named Dynamo Joe, which is cool. Yeah. This flings them across timelines and dimensions and into Grimjack's current location. Once found, Grimjack decides to help his old friends escape from the dangers of this dimension and back where they belong. There's a lot happening in this comic. Again, world building. I'm going to point that out always. I think world building is really interesting. This plays with that common trope of a multiverse. But at least from this issue, at least what I got, is it's less a multiverse in that it's like the Spider-Verse where there are multiple people who undertake a similar journey, sharing in like a canon event, like in Spider-Verse, or just the Marvel / DC multiverse of like alternate versions of pre-existing characters. There might be some of that in the Grimjack universe, but the way it's portrayed is more like where Grimjack is from and operates is almost like a point in space and time that can cross into and allow passage in from other dimensions. And so he essentially is like a dimensional mercenary. He goes to different places to do different jobs. And I guess the first comics world, many of their issues are in this interconnected universe where it's like these characters can kind of pop in, but they don't necessarily have to always be there.
It's not necessarily they're like in the same world, but they are interconnected through that.
So Dynamo Joe and Grimjack actually Dynamo Joe and his pilots, they come from different dimensions, but because of Grimjack's abilities and his status, he has gone there. And we actually get some of the backstory for that. But then Dynamo Joe, and there's some really cool preview, like poster images. Dynamo Joe was another series that they were launching. That was going to be its own thing. But because it takes place in its own world, it can be separate from the stuff that's happening here.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of fun. I know people are really harping on the multiverse right now, and I think it's like with anything. People don't like bad representation of something, right? So if they're unsatisfied with the representation of it, I don't think they're misinterpreting that as the concept is bad, right? I dislike MCU multiverse because even though it's fun, it's just actor from another movie. I like Spider-Verse because it's not just the Peter Parkers, it's the Spider-Men. It's all the different people who have undertaken the mantle and for different reasons and in different timelines and et cetera, different worlds. I think it works better. And so I'm not I'm not sick of the concept yet, to be safe. I'm just sick of it being poorly executed.
Well, when it's a cheap way to shoehorn in people from other movies or something, that's when it gets kind of old. Versus like the whole concept of Spider-Verse is like, it's not even necessarily like a plot device. It's just like it's the core. It's just what the movie's about. It's not like
it's not just tacked on.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a core vision of the movie.
It's not a cheap way for them to be like, well, this will get all those fucking dorks to come see this movie because we're gonna get all the original X-Men are gonna be in this one, and I'm just gonna be like, okay.
I know it's gonna work. It's gonna work. I'm gonna see goddamn Doomsday because of the X-Men.
Yeah, RDJ. Bring him back. Another huge character. It's what worked the first time. Bring all the originals back.
Yeah. Like
I'm still going to be a chud and go see that fucking movie because I can't help myself. But I know what they're doing and whatever.
It's work.
And I am still going to be like, hey, it's Cyclops.
Hey, look, he's actually doing something remotely decent for once because he's really poorly adapted in the movies. Like one of the only characters that just essentially gets assassinated for like no reason.
He's a dick the whole time and then he dies.
Yeah. That's life. I think that in the thing is like it's only loosely touched upon in this and more so in the backup story. And I'm gonna talk about the backup story a little bit more. near the end. But I like the pulpy aspect of this. I just don't know if it hits where I want it to hit in terms of, and I love, like I'm saying, I like John Ostrander's work. It can work for me. A lot of the stuff I've read from him is 15, 20 years after this. So he's a growing boy is all I can say. And then he's learning, he's getting better. I don't think the writing and the storytelling is the clear best part about this. I think, I don't even think the art is. I think the art is serviceable, but I think it's one of those things where it's like you have really excellent designs, you have really interesting concepts. However, because it's a comic and it has to be produced monthly, like there are limitations and some things just have to look quickly done. That being said, Dynamo Joe looks awesome. I'm going to show you Dynamo Joe. There's a lot of really cool designs throughout. So I like it artistically. Story-wise, it's very thin for me. And again, that's because it's number 30. Yeah. You know? And also, like, Grimjack doesn't even first premiere in his own series. He premiered in the 17th issue of another series, you know? So there's a long contextual history that I'm missing here, but we're here to assess this issue. And so the writing in this issue was just okay. The main story is essentially Grimjack is working for this guy, and out there in the world, the pilots of Dynamo Joe install this device incorrectly into their Robomech, and it flings them through space and time to where Grimjack is, and Grimjack is told by the people he's working for, hey, go take care of this. This is unusual. We need to figure out what's happening. Because the people who are here don't know what this thing is. And the people who are inside of it don't know where they are because they're from different places. Grimjack is the only person who has been in both places and knows. And so there's a kind of fun thing where Grimjack knows the pilots because he was hired to be a mercenary to go to this world, this dimension, and fight in this war. And he made friends with these guys, and then these guys, the robo-soldiers, replaced the mercenaries and whatever. But anyway, he knows these guys, and the fun part about it is that these guys went not only to a different dimension, they went back in time. They are dead. Grimjack knows them as dead. And so there's a part when he finds out it's them, instead of trying to destroy the robo-soldier, he helps them escape because he doesn't want the people where he's from to find this technology because they're not going to understand it. And obviously he cares about his friends, so he wants to send them back. But there's a really kind of creepy, weird, cool moment that I actually like where they're like, hey, buddy, if you say that you know us, tell us, do we get through this goddamn war? And Grimjack just goes, no. Get out of here. Damn. And it's kind of chilling. It's really cool. I really thought that part was interesting. The best part is one of the guys is like a cat. Who speaks really sillily, and I will read it to you. So it's kind of funny that there's a chilling moment with a cat man. But yeah, so essentially he sends them back. They go back to where they belong. Everything is fixed, right? What I almost weirdly enjoyed more is this backup story. So backup stories are, I don't know if they're always called that or what the terminology is, but some comics say it's a 20-page comic. Some comics will have 16 of a main story and 4 of an additional story. Usually that additional story is in a different art style or a different creative team entirely and is telling potentially an interconnected story that goes across the issues. Honestly, I haven't read as many backup issues in single issues. I feel like it's an older practice, and it only sometimes happens in modernity, and it's usually not for like event type stuff. Or it can be for an event type stuff, as in a lead in. You know, say you have like a Nightwing book and they're leading to a big Bat Family thing. Sometimes there will be a backup story tying Nightwing to the event. Is essentially the concept. But in this one, I guess there's this reoccurring backup story. It's called Murden's Bar. And I guess Murden's Bar is essentially the Mos Eisley for the multiverse of like where all these different sort of dimensional characters may interlink. However, In this issue, it is not the true Merden's bar. It is in fact an anthropomorphized dimension, and it's all the characters of this world, presumably including Grimjack, but it's Grimbear, and everyone is depicted in a nice, fun-loving, like, Care Bear world. And it's really interesting, really funny. And I guess there's a bad guy or an adversary of Grimjack who, in a previous issue, was punched so hard he came here. And so now we have this angry guy who is surrounded by all these cute and cuddly creatures, and they like play fight. So we have Grim Bear, who's dressed like Grimjack, but he has the whole outfit. So Grimjack has like a big scar. He made it with wax, and like he has a gun, but it shoots water. Like they play fight, right? They're not like seriously hurting and killing each other. The sun speaks and is the narrator, and is essentially talking about the villain is like, oh, this poor guy, he's all alone and he's stuck here. It gets to the point where the bad guy wants to escape. He's tired of hanging out with these anthropomorphic creatures. And then suddenly there's this pig guy. And the pig guy, I guess, looks like a counterpart in the normal version. And I guess their energies align, and so he becomes possessed by the real version of the guy. And there's a really funny moment where, like, there's a tree with a face, and he rips the tree out of the ground, and the tree dies. And in the next panel, the tree has X's over his eyes as the pig guy uses it to like beat the bad guy. But I guess this bad guy has power over dimensions, and so because the guy is possessed, he walks over to him and he changes the energy, and he embodies the energy of an atheistic dimension that doesn't believe in gods, and so therefore this possessed being has no power because God isn't real. So he saves the day, presumably, and everyone's like, yay! And then they tell him, oh, there actually is a portal that you can get out of here. And they're all like, oh, well, we're going to miss you. Will you visit? And he's like, of course I'll visit you guys. I'll visit you on the second Tuesday of next week. And they're all like, yay! And then he escapes, and then the bear goes, second Tuesday. I love the backup issue.
That's funny.
I liked it more than the main one, but it was so fun. And obviously the art is like in a completely different style. It's very like Sunday cartoon or Sunday comic cartoon.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. It was fun. So I think the idea of Grimjack has a lot of potential. I like the open multiversal type stuff. Just it was kind of weird. Like the writing was weird. Not bad, but just kind of like there's too much sometimes that they go through. That's the cat guy. So the cat guy is very, people in 2026 would love this cat guy.
Dynamo Joe.
Because he says stuff like, Roger Dokie, Sarge. Or he'll be like, I was just kind of poking around. Yeah, he's weird. He also says Cinco de Mayonnaise. He's a weird cat guy. The writing is weird. I'm telling you, it's weird. But like the first page opens up with this like just almost incomprehensible like lore dump, and obviously it's issue 30. We're getting all that information, but Sinusher, which is where the dimensions meet, right? Sinusher is an odd place where all the dimensions eventually meet. I do work for the odder, nastier jobs in the city, including covert work for William Honesworthy, chief poobah of the shaky coalition that tries to run the city. It's a job group named Cadre used to do until they join a guy named the Dancer and try to take over the city. The attempt failed, but Cadre and Dancer are still out there, which makes the city bosses just a tad queasy. It's just like, it's just a lot. There's kind of a fun character though, like this sort of like police chief almost guy who's really interesting, and he's like a smoker and stuff, and he's like the whole time he's like like choking, and the guy's like, the cigs, and he's like, I got bronchitis, idiot. Or like there's this there's the mighty Sir who like runs this place, and he's like just like this weird, gross little alien guy. And the guy that works for him is this giant,
What the hell?
like dragon robot. You think it'd be the other way around of like this is the leader and this is his attendant, but no. Dynamo Joe looks awesome though.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very like Voltron.
Yeah.
Looking. This is that bronchitis. Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? Like some of the art is cool. There's something about it, but also.
This sounds pretty freaking awesome. Not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
I think I was actually a little harder on it now going back, but this is the real deal. Is the Grim Bear issue? But all these guys are like all the animals are being other characters, so they've like taped on horns or like they wear masks or all kinds of stuff. Yeah, the tree being killed is really funny. Oh, there's a bit you'll probably see on the next page when a guy hits another guy and he goes into the moon and the moon has a broken nose. The moon says ouch. And he says, "You hurt my nose." You hurt my nose.
This kind of rules.
Yeah. It was a lot it was a lot of fun. I think if you embrace the fun aspect of it and you just acknowledge that it's like a pulpy, fun adventure, you're going to get a lot more out of it. If you try to delve too deep into it, that's where you're going to be lacking, presumably. But yeah, I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah, this just feels like bonkers, like just balls to the wall.
Yeah, just
We're throwing
insanity.
everything in there.
So I guess a little bit more of the background is Grimjack started as a backup story for Star Slayer, and they actually reference Star Slayer. I think Star Slayer was in the anthropomorphic universe, and I think Grimjack killed a bunch of evil rabbits and saved the bears, and that was his first appearance, but I could be wrong. But yeah, essentially he just operates in this sort of like bar that can go anywhere, and I think that's really fun. So I did have a couple ads that I thought would be kind of fun to shout out. There's an announcement page, and they were holding a poll for favorite and least favorite aspects from the series and backups. So I think it's cool that they were having a lot of feedback with readers of and acknowledging, is there stuff that you dislike? I think that's a big thing because a lot of the time I'll read like sort of negative review stuff in like the letter pages, and usually it's just the author or the artist being like, "Go kick a rocks,
Yeah,
like get out of here," and it's like, and some of it's justified and some of it's stupid. But I think it's cool that they're essentially like having feedback be an option for readers. Because especially back in the day, if you want to keep making comics, you need people to read the comics and purchase the comics because like you're maybe barely breaking even, if that, at this level. I mean, even Marvel was going bankrupt. Like, it's an expensive, crazy industry. And then I guess they had another series called Nexus, which seemed to have a rotating cast of creatives. And in this one, the next issue says it will include Mike Mignola, which I thought was really fun. So it's always fun to see Mignola taking his rightful spot on the throne of Hellboy and all of his other projects and stuff. It's cool to see him just as like a working Joe, a jobber, if you will. But yeah, overall, cool concept, cool characters, but the writing and some of the art doesn't do it for me entirely. I think it was a little harsh. I gave it a 5.5 initially. I think I'll boost that up maybe to a 6.5. Because talking about it, it made me be like, I kind of liked it a lot more. I think the act of reading it is just kind of boring, but the act of looking at it is really fun.
Hearing about it, I'm like, I'm interested in this. Like,
yeah. I'd be curious to see more, and I guess it went on for a really long time. So yeah, that was Grimjack. I'm actually even going to edit. 6.5, everyone.
Nice.
We did it.
Okay, so my number one pick is called Vinegar Teeth.
Oh, yeah, boy.
This is issue number 1 of 4 issues. The creative team on this script is by Damon Gentry and Troy Nixie. Art team, art and lettering by Troy Nixie, colors by Guy Major. This is published by Dark Horse in January 2018. Some research notes on the creative team. Damon Gentry, I couldn't find too much from them. They had another book I found called Sabretooth Swordsman that looked really cool.
I'm interested.
So that might be worth keeping an eye out for if I ever see anything for that. But Troy Nixie is a pretty established illustrator for comics. They illustrated the interiors for Batman: The Doom that came to Gotham.
Good.
Which is awesome.
I love that art. Yeah. I mean, it's a Mignola story, and he does
just the covers, I think. But yeah.
But he envelops the style of Mignola without like essentially copying him.
Yeah. So, which is very different from what we see in this book.
Gotcha.
But still, like, stellar work in both of these. He also directed a feature film, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which I think was a remake that came out in 2011, which I haven't seen, but still cool to direct a movie, you know?
Hey, man, you're living our dream of making a comic and then making a movie.
Those are the two things. So I'll just give you this book is bananas. I'll just give you here's the synopsis I got online. Vinegar Teeth is a horror comedy comic book series written by writer Damon Gentry and artist Troy Nixey, published by Dark Horse Comics, that blends H.P. Lovecraft-style cosmic horror with a buddy cop story. It follows a down-on-his-luck alcoholic detective named Artie Buckle, who was partnered with a giant tentacled extra-dimensional monster that eats criminals and is nicknamed Vinegar Teeth for its foul breath.
That sounds amazing.
It's awesome. And this kicks off in such a bizarre way that like hooked me instantly. And I just want you to like just read the first page. It's unrelated to the rest of the book so far.
Brick City.
Like, and then it's just like
before.
Yeah.
Blur, blur, blur.
It's just it's nonsense, but you're like, I'm in.
I think sometimes people are too precious with how they render. Obviously, if you're rendering like people with a likeness, that's different. But I think that you can have so much fun rendering "quote unquote" ugly people, as in that they just look normal and weird and funky. And I love that kind of art style.
This book leans so heavily into like purposefully making stuff ugly.
Oh, I love it.
In such a
like
fun
it looks
way.
very Flapjack. Misadventures of Flapjack.
It's a good way to compare it. It fits super squarely in kind of like the lowbrow, like comics with an X style of comics, you know. But still has a very distinct of its own look. It's not like ripping anything off, at least visually, as far as I can tell. It's its own like really cool, unique, cartoonish style. It's a really weird, fun book. It's kind of hard to talk about it critically, I think, because it is just so bizarre. Essentially, what happens is like this monster just like pops out of space, and he interrupts a bus that this detective Artie is in the middle of. And then the city just promotes him to a cop, and they're just like, thanks. And they like, he doesn't know his name, and so Artie's like, how about Vinegar Teeth because his breath smells? And he's like, I like it. And then later he's talking to his chief, and he's like, I can't believe they made him a cop. And she's like, oh, also he's your partner now. And he's like, fuck. So he takes him and he's like trying to teach him how to be a good cop, and tries to do another bust, and inadvertently like. He saves the Vinegar Teeth saves the day again, and Artie kind of fucks up. But yeah, it's such a. You just have to kind of read it to get it. I think like
Well, it's one of those things where it's like you're either in or you're out, and you're gonna know that pretty quickly.
You'll know right away off the first page if you're like, I'm interested.
Well, it feels very like Adult Swim, and not in like a Rick and Morty way, but more, I don't know, just like. Days and I have been friends for a long time, and we just have a shared humor. And sometimes things just like get to us more than like, and if you're around other people, it just doesn't work. Or we've been told by other people that our humor is strange or is hard to be around. But it's like, if you like it, you like it kind of thing. And so I think that's very much up my alley. That's very much up your alley. That looks awesome. That sounds awesome.
One thing I want to shout out to, and I'll put this stuff up there, is the way that this utilizes dialogue boxes is really fun. Like, and it's not like the first time I've seen this, but like first page, for example, like just that little skull, like you get what's happening, you know. And then there's lots of like splorts and slurps and splooshes,
gurgle.
It's a very gross book. But like the way characters talk is really weird. So like during this drug bust. I think these guys are supposed to be German because they say "Ach mein Gott," or like here in their bus, they're like, "Oh, cheese company." But yeah, like the drug dealer's like, "Oh yes, this is the really wow stuff. It come from place I tell you about, Mr. Cardovan."
I like
this
that.
hit like you'd heard a very angry elephant. I enjoy some we agree upon, you know.
It's just fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fun.
So then, yeah, Vinegar Teeth comes and slurps up one of the guys, and the cops come in, and he saves the day.
Hell of a job.
He gets a medal. Or like stuff like this, or like that's him finding out that he's going to be partners.
Yeah, mind blown. Mm-hmm. That's fun.
Or there was another one specifically that I really liked. It's like him sleeping. It's a sonologue. He's taking a drink, and it's like time for some quality arty time. And he's like, "Dream." There's these goofy, like French criminals that are loading up barrels on a boat, and they say, "That is the last barrel of illegal cigarettes."
I might have to borrow this. This looks so awesome.
Like, "Holy shit! The gold plunge is imminent." Au revoir, silly cop. You know, just like great
it's just
stuff.
Fun. Yeah, it's very like a Tintin kind of like just adventure, like.
Yeah, and then this like his jaw dropping, like I love how huge his hat is.
Yeah,
it's just like it hints at like something larger going on, or people might be under some sort of control, or you know, zombies or something. I don't know what yet. But yeah, I will definitely lend this to you because I think you will really like this.
Yeah.
This is another one. Again, I'm gonna try to pick up the full.
Wow, you had like a 3 for 3.
Yeah, this was a good episode. So 8.5 out of 10 is what I wound up rating this. It's really strong, and I really liked it. And it's only 4 issues, so nice. I'm gonna find those other 3.
Easy investment.
Yeah,
I just like that kind of stuff because it just seems like someone is having fun and had a good idea, and it very much feels like that could be a show, and maybe that part of the energy and behind it is we can't animate this, so how can we make it as animated as possible, and like playing with the text boxes, you know, inferring not only like the inference of sound and music has always been part of comics, but doing stuff like the sawing logs and stuff like that totally would be an audio gag. So I like that the creative team is playing with sort of gags, but also still like there's viscera and violence and all that kind of stuff in this. So it's just a fun. I like that kind of. I don't know. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, like this was a fun in a gross book, but not in like a off-putting way. Like it's like a funny way. You know, like. This was my favorite of the 3 I found. This was Vinegar Teeth. It's pretty great read if you have the chance to read it. I strongly recommend it.
It's a Holy Moley recommends. My favorite genre is Oops, Eldritch.
Yeah.
So for my third pick, I'm doing something a little bit different. My third pick is the Valiant Reader. So we have covered some Valiant on this show in the past. And so that's why I picked it up, is because I thought it'd be kind of fun to learn more about the universe. And this is the Valiant Reader. This was released in 1993. It is 32 pages. The primary author is Anthony J.L. Bedard, and it has a whole host of contributing artists. I'll go down the line. Phil Autuo, Sean Chen, Bob Layton, Mike Leakey, Gonzalo Mayo, Joe St. Pierre, Joe Rubenstein, Tom Ryder, Howard Simpson, and colorists are Eric Hope, Mark Pusterier, and Paul Mark Posterior and Paul Autuio. And then it is edited by the editor-in-chief Bob Layton and editor Kevin Van Hoek. And of course, this is published by Valiant Comics and Voyager Communications Incorporated. So, a quick history of Valiant. Valiant Comics was founded in 1989 by Jim Shooter. While over the years, Valiant has been overseen by many parent companies, it still remains, fortunately, to this day, Right now, it is under the DMG Entertainment as of 2018, and many characters still exist in new series that are currently running or have recently concluded. So that's cool. It's cool that Valiant is alive and well, and some fans who may have been following characters can continue to do so. So because this entry is going to be a little bit different, I'm going to do a quick breakdown of what a reader is. I could not actually find a good definition, even though I've heard the term before. So if somebody has a better definition or a more concrete definition that they'd like to share, please do so. But for the sake of this breakdown, a writer, to my understanding, is a comprehensive guide to onboard new readers. So it's a way to catch them up to speed with potentially long-running series, showcase characters, showcase the power sets of characters, their origins, et cetera, et cetera. So this one showcases all of the series that were running at the time, the characters that are involved, a timeline of their origins, and important events that they have been dealing with, right? So it's essentially a way to catch people up with characters and series. This one features about 12 or so different sort of series and has a lot of fun stuff where they have some bio pages for the authors and artists at the end, and they also have an awesome splash page that has all of the characters of the Valiant universe, or at least a lot that are related to this this reader. So essentially it's just a catch-all. It's almost like a very heavily stylized, almost like encyclopedia of sorts. So I thought it would be fun to play a little game. So I'll get into the game in just a second. But first, I thought I would just say that I give this a 5 out of 10. Just because it is just an information booklet. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. It has some of the worst design I've ever seen. And I'm going to show Davis, and I'm going to we'll throw it up. But it has one of the worst introduction pages ever. It looks like a word art. Like, not that it was made with word art, it looks word art.
Yeah, that's very 1993.
Yeah, bad. But the game is and I spent way too much time on this. I don't know how many rounds we'll go. If you want to do more, we can. The suggested I put is 3 to 5.
Okay.
The game. Each round, I will present you the list of characters or series that are discussed in this. You can pick a character or team, and then you get to choose from 4 categories in which you can attempt to answer a question. You can also pick another category to get more context from. The idea is it's just to be fun. There's no winning or losing. It's just meant to talk about how maybe potentially crazy or weird these series are. And then, here's my note. The introductory page, one of the worst looking pages intended to be read I've ever seen. One of the things in this is that introductory page talks about how when they set out to do Valiant, they did not want to do analog characters. Analog characters is essentially like your Supermans, your Batmans, your Spider-Mans. It's Homelander's a Superman clone, et cetera, et cetera. They said that they didn't want to do that. What's funny is there are not a lot of analog characters to other series. There are just an extremely large amount of analog characters to themselves. In that everyone has similar powers or a similar origin or is of a similar, there's, and we'll get into it with the game, but there's essentially in this universe the equivalent of like a mutant where it's like they have powers that are either given or they manifest or whatever, and they can be enhanced. And it's like a lot of characters are these mutants, right? And so their origins are all kind of linked together. But getting into the game, I made a whole spreadsheet. I put way too much time into just this. So if you have fun, maybe we'll have to do a full bonus episode of don't look at any of the information, but you can see there's a breakdown right here, and I'll show you when it's done. So I'll go down the characters first, and then you can pick one, and then we'll play the game. So this will be round 1. I'm going to do series titles. We have Archer and Armstrong. We have Bloodshot, which might sound familiar.
Talked about, yeah.
We have Eternal Warrior. We have Harbinger. We have the Hardcore, We have Magnus Robot Fighter. We have Rai and the Future Force. We have Secret Weapons. We have Shadow Man. We have Man of the Atom. We have Turok Dinosaur Hunter. And lastly, we have XO Man o' War. Which series would you like to potentially play?
Let's do, just because I know it a little bit, let's do Magnus Robot Fighter.
Okay. So the game is, there are 4 categories that you can pick to guess from, and one of the categories, if you think it will help give you context, you can get the info from. So the categories are powers, origins, length of comic run, and the primary enemy/enemies. So I am asking you to guess what one of the categories is you can pick. Does that make sense? So for an example, say we were playing it with Spider-Man. You could say, oh, I'm going to guess the origin. The origin, he is bit by a spider. Does that make sense? And then if you want to, you don't have to. If you want to, you can ask for another category for context if you think it will help. It might not.
Yeah. Let's do main enemy for Magnus Robot
Okay,
Fighter.
so what? And you don't have to name it, but it's sort of. I put the names, but there's some. I try to add some context to it of like they're this thing, right? So, who is the primary enemy of Magnus?
It's a certain type of robot. I can't remember what it's called. It's not all robots.
Not all robots. I'm going to say that is allowed because he is the Magnus Robot Fighter. Yeah. The primary enemy or enemies of Magnus, and this is throughout multiple issues, so it might not have been covered in some of the ones that you've read, is the rogue free will robots, which are the robotic workforce of the future. Those are the ones that he primarily
That's
fights.
the one that E7 joins, I think, in that issue that I said, like, he becomes one of them.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So they're essentially the first bad guys. What you might not know is down the line, there's an evil race of robots from an evil robot planet called Malev 6 that has a robot emperor. And so they become the primary enemies for Magnus, is the Malev 6 invaders, which have like a sexy robot lady emperor.
Okay. Yes, I think they were also in that issue
That's crazy. Yeah.
That I brought.
It was kind of hard to find some of this information because I
Without
tried to
rating
do
everything.
I tried to do just what this told me, but then some of the stuff I had to find out. So other fun little things about Magnus Robot Fighter, it went for 65 issues.
Dang.
The Valiant, just the Valiant.
Yeah, because then the license went to a different company or something.
And that's just this, and they still have rights to. So that's not including any new Magnus Robot Fighter, and that's not including any of the classic Magnus Robot Fighter. 65 issues, just Valiant.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's what, 6 years probably.
I think that's the highest. Little hint. Oh, there's only one more that has a few more issues than that, but for the most part, it's one of the highest ones. So that's essentially the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Another round. Pick another character.
Let's do the hardcore.
All right, the hardcore. The red. Okay. All right. So, what is the hardcore's either power, origin, how many issues, or their primary enemy? I'm glad you picked this one because I actually have a fun fact for this one.
Let's do power.
Okay. What is the hardcore's power?
I'm gonna guess like have armor.
Have armor. Okay.
Yeah.
Their powers are cybernetic brain implants, psionic powers, and weaponry skills. So they're G.I. Joes essentially with cybernetics. Fun fact: the hardcore only went for 30 issues. But one of my favorite fun facts that I found out for all of this, I'm glad you picked this one, is that Jim Lee did the cover art for hardcore only because in return he got U2 tickets. He wasn't going to do it, and then they said,
what if we sweeten this deal?
And he said yes to that.
For Bono, anything.
I thought that was really funny.
That's funny. Did they include that tidbit in here?
I had to find that out separately. Jim Lee is not a featured artist, unfortunately. So yeah, this is kind of the game. Is just silly. It's just a way to. the game is more just like a way to share like information.
Yeah.
So the origin of the hardcore is that there's the Omen Corporation. They created the Harbinger. Harbingers are the mutants. The Omen Company created the Harbinger Active Resistance Division, HARD. So they're mutants that have anti-mutant powers, right? And the candidates are plucked from coma patients. And if they forsake their duty, they will be returned to their coma state.
So this is just Suicide Squad,
Yes.
G.I. Joes, like.
Yeah, pretty much. I just like the idea of like they wake up coma patients, essentially fill them with like cybernetic enhancements, and then say, if you don't do what we say, we're gonna put you
You're going back.
Yeah, it's and so some members include Maniac, Gunslinger, Hammerhead, Shakespeare, Superstar, Flatline, Hotshot, Wipeout, and Perp. And these are characters who come in and out, so they're not all founding hard members. But at one point they all will be hard members.
Everyone's hard at some point.
At some point. All right. Do you want to do a third one?
Yeah, let's do Turok Dinosaur Hunter.
Okay, you got it. Turok Dinosaur Hunter. So what is the power of Turok, origin, comic run, or his enemies?
I'm going to guess origin.
Okay.
I'm going to guess he was a caveman that gets yanked from the past and then has to hunt dinosaurs in the future.
That's actually pretty close. It's pretty close. He is a Native American of the 1860s. He and his ally explore a deep desert cave, and within is a portal to another dimension known as the Lost Land. So you're right in that he's from an older time, and he is taken to a different, instead of a different timeline, it's a different dimension. So it's almost like the whole Hollow Earth idea of like the journey to the center of the earth kind of thing. But it's like a different dimension. One of my favorite things is one of his notable enemies.
Dinosaurs.
Is dinosaurs. I wrote dinosaurs primary enemy, but also later on there is a bionic dinosaur.
Oh no.
Who's named Monarch the Bionosaur.
That's awesome.
I love that. That's so fun.
I've got like super minimal Turok exposure in that like I have a very vague memory of playing one of the N64 games as a kid.
Yeah, some of the art that is featured in here like makes it look crazy. So yeah, so I'll kind of just go through some of these just for fun. Do you have any more that you want to hear about?
What is it? Rye Shadow? What is it?
Oh yeah, Rye and the Future Force. So Rye is actually really cool. That story was insane. So essentially, he's selected by the grandmother, which is a super computer that is sentient that defends Japan. So Rye is essentially like he is uplifted almost into like a samurai form by the grandmother, and he is imbued with the great power to defend Japan and Earth. Fun fact. That supercomputer apparently within these stories is hijacked and then used to drop on Japan.
Oh no. Not grandmother.
By spider aliens.
Damn. They can't catch a break.
It's rough. Yeah. The spider aliens. The invading alien force that takes over Japan. According to my notes.
Japan used to be nice before the spider aliens.
I do have another one that that has a somewhat fun fact that I wanted to shout out at you. We have a character of Shadow Man. Now, I'm gonna go through some of the information about Shadow Man, and I want you to tell me if it sounds similar to another character covered on this show. Shadow Man, he is a jazz saxophonist who is bitten by a vampire spider alien. And he survives the attack, and he emerges as a vigilante protecting New Orleans.
So isn't that exactly what Nightman is?
Almost exactly, except for Nightman gets struck by lightning.
Oh.
But this guy's... But they're pretty much the...
Yeah.
Like, I was like, that's really... So I don't know what
Shadow
came...
Man and Nightman and them both being saxophone players. That's too...
What came first,
that's
the
a
knife or
little
the shadow?
Slade and Wade.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like... That's funny.
And his primary enemies are the street criminals of New Orleans and Master Dark, who's a necromancer.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of crazy series throughout. Like some are like really lame. Like there's this Man of War guy who essentially like steals this armor. He's very Iron Man based. There's a really cool character that plays with like how Magnus has like that 60s origin and history. There's another character that was similar in that he is a pre-existing character and then Valiant took over. But what they did is that they kept his origin the same, but he gets these powers and he loses control, and it's that timeline. It's the old 60 timeline, and he accidentally evaporates it. And then to fix his mistake, he goes back in time to prevent this mistake, and he fuses with the Valiant version and starts a new timeline. So I like that they're playing. I think it's always fun when stories get meta like that of, oh, the old 60s does happen. It's just another universe, and now we've combined. So I thought that was kind of fun. There's a lot of weird stuff in these Valiants. There's a lot of like stuff about like old warriors who were like ancient beings who then lived to the future. There's a lot of stuff like that have like historical references to them and stuff like that. But and then of course one last thing I want to say, Bloodshot, just because there was a Vin Diesel movie. I never watched it, did not look good, but I think that character is kind of interesting. He's essentially just powered by nanites.
Yeah, I vaguely remembered something about that movie, but
yeah, he's a former mobster sold out and transformed into a killing machine via nanites in his bloodstream. I just like that one of his main enemies is Speed Shot. And also the crime organization of WebNet. So, a little bit different. It's not really a story to debrief, but it was, I think, a fun way to sort of showcase some of the weirdness of Valiant Comics, and now you can kind of take a look at the reader.
There's some. I mean, I didn't know too much about Valiant beforehand, but there's a lot of fun stuff in here. Yeah,
I picked this up and I saw that it was Valiant Reader, and I just thought it would be kind of a fun, different way to showcase like some of the weird stuff that you can find in the dollar bin. So while it's not necessarily a story, I think it's a fun like surplus of like information of an era. Like Davis is looking through it right now, but it's like they have a character art with a quick breakdown, and then it shows like a timeline of their story, and then the back of the book has supplemental characters that play a role in the series, and then you have a huge splash with all the characters.
That's cool. Definitely feels very 90s, like they're kind of trying to do like the Wildstorm image thing.
It's very image Wildstormy, but it's so, I'm not gonna say desperately, but it's so much like hinging on that like Marvel house style. Like it really, really wants to still be, it wants the like respect and reputation of something like Marvel, but then it wants that character design and like grit of an image. And I kind of think it gets lost in the middle. I think there's a lot of cool character concepts. I'm sure that maybe more modern takes on them have been really, really cool. But I just like it because it's just like a time capsule into like an insane time in comic book making of like doing whatever. Of you're going to have a Native American hunting dinosaurs, fighting spider aliens, and Vin Diesel.
Well, and it's fun to just see like a bird's eye view of like another shared universe that isn't nearly as much in the cultural zeitgeist as DC or Marvel.
Well, it's just cool that they were all these companies were doing not necessarily a multiverse, but they were trying to do an interconnected scape in which they have many characters and places and stories that they could tell. But I thought we'd play a little game.
Yeah, it was fun.
As just a way to get through some of that information. Because as I was reading it, I was like, obviously I can't just, I don't want to regurgitate essentially everything that's on these pages, but I think that there's some fun tidbits. And so that was a way for you to pick some of the things that you thought might be interesting. I spent way too much time making this. I spent way too much time researching. All the information I got came from the reader, but then like for stuff like length of comic run, I had to look up separately. And it's hard because it's like when Valiant gets purchased by a different parent company, some of these series and some of them continue from the same number. And I wanted to just dictate the run during this era of Valiant. And so that was hard to kind of parse through the information. But yeah, 5 out of 10. So this was the yin yang episode of Tales from the Bin. It's been a long time in the making. We've had to somewhat postpone filming this, so apologies for a little bit of a delay getting this to you. And some of my picks were limited based on, at the time when we had prepped for this, I had read all of these and I didn't want to pick any new ones because I already done all the work for us. So I'm hoping to have some redemption next time. It's not that any of mine are bad. I think that there's some good stuff to them, but I definitely think all of Davis's looked like winners. And I think that just shows the highs and the lows of the bins.
That's the broad experience of digging through the bins.
And if there's any of these that you've read before and you've liked or even loved and you want to share more information on it, please do. We say this every time. We're not experts. We're just guys that like to read comics and save a bit of cash by paying $1 for them. I think that's going to be it for this episode of Tales from the Bin. Thank you for watching. And I almost said, may the bin be with you, but
keep it holy.
Keep it holy.